Now, there are a lot of business people that want to name a price first because they think that they get a great deal. Every time they name the price first, they got a great deal. Well, they forget about the number of times they named the price first and the other side turned and walked away. The great practitioners understand that extreme anchors drive deals away from the table. If you're a negotiator, Brandon and I hate not making deals. And we think it's really stupid for us to have driven a deal from the table by taking an extreme position when we should have made the deal. We should have explored it. We should have found out what the other side could have thrown on the table.
Right. So if you let them start, at least you're going to start something rather than just scare them away.
It's information. Their first price is information. How do you know that they're not going to start out with a price that was better than what you would have asked for in the first place? I don't care what percentage of time that is. I'm not willing to give those dollars up as a starting point. You may come up with a number that was higher than what I wanted or better for me than what I wanted. I want to make that happen because then it's an opportunity. It was your idea. You're more likely to stick to that if I get you to fight for that price. So then you're much more invested. You're gonna execute. So we don't believe in higher anchoring. Now there are other things that we do, but throwing out an extreme position to start with is not something we believe in.
Okay.
You good with that, Brad?
Yeah, and one thing I'd ask you to expound upon a little bit is just that people anchor so much in negotiation. I mean, it happens so often that people generally walk into a negotiation expecting to be anchored at some point. Now, exactly to what you said earlier, anchoring is not something we do. However, if we've given a price or if someone has given a price and that's their number, but the counterpart interprets that number as an anchor because they're so used to getting anchored, no matter what you say, they're just automatically going to assume whatever number you laid out is going to be an extreme anchor. How do you deal with that?
Yeah,
how do you deal with bad perception, I guess,
I find in our business, a lot of times you just give you give a price and they just go away if it's not even close to what you. But then at the same time, everybody wants a deal. And so I'm like totally torn, and a lot of times people don't feel like you're real unless you have a price on the machine.
Interesting nuance there. No, I like interesting nuances because you just said you added some more detail basically to the situation that I just described because you see this all the time. You and your father and your uncle and your business that you guys run, you see this firsthand.
Yeah.
So all right, so we'll give you a little bit of coaching here. All right, so you guys got machines. You got to name price first because you're selling machines, right?
Sometimes, often, yeah.
All right, so if somebody comes back at you and wants to lower the price, you pivot out of price right away. If I'm legitimately telling you that your price is high, what am I telling you? The value's just not there for me. So that's a label. You're gonna pivot off the numbers and start pivoting to the dynamics. Now your label's going to tell you one or two things. You say the value's just not there. They say, hey, look, you guys, that machine, that's crazy. What do you? That price is way too high. You got to come down. Your response instead of getting into a back and forth, tic-tac-toe. You got to stay out of tic-tac-toe. You got to stay out of being the second mover. Because now if you come back, you're a second mover. You're at a disadvantage. The best you could do is tie. You say, hey, look, it sounds to me like this machine just isn't worth it for you. Mm-hmm. Now, when they come in, what are they doing? First of all, do they want your machine? Or do they just need a competitive bid?
Sometimes.
Now, sometimes. How much of that time? Matter of fact, there's data out there as how much they just need a competitive bid and they are wasting your time. At least 20% of the time, they're there for a competitive bid. There's been a fair amount of data that's been pulled on it where they basically ask business people, how often do you ask somebody for a price and the only thing you're looking for is a competitive bid? Which basically the question is, how often do you lie in business? Business people have admitted to lying 20% of the time. Now, if you wanted to put that figure in context, are they exaggerating how much they lie? Or are they minimizing how much they lie? If I ask you how much of the time do you lie, your likely initial reaction is going to be to minimize how often you lie, because you probably pride yourself on your honesty and integrity. You're not going to exaggerate how much you lie. So that 20% number's got to be low. There's no way, based on what we know on human nature, and nobody that we've discussed this 20% figure with has said, oh, no, people exaggerate how much they lie. People lie way less than they actually admit to. No, that ain't the case. People minimize how much they lie. So 20% of the time they're pumping you for information, they're not going to do business with you. Every moment spent in that conversation costs you your most valuable commodity, time. Mm-hmm. It keeps you from talking to people that you should be talking to. So that's the first issue. You got to find out whether or not they're lying or whether or not they're telling the truth that they're going to buy from you. Sounds like the value's not there for you is the label that their reaction will give you a really good assessment of whether or not they're there to buy.
Right. Okay. But say you know that they want the machine, or you know they likely are interested in the machine, but they don't want to give you a price. I mean, we know the market to some extent. We kind of know a target, and it's just this like difficult puzzle to figure out how much to anchor versus how much to you don't want to like scare them away, you know, and like once you go too low, then you're never going to get them back up. So if you had to come in and anchor, is there a certain technique you use, or is there a certain way you figure out how to?
I'm gonna throw out one more idea to put some context on this, and then I'm gonna ask Brandon to jump in. So, and this is why the bargaining skills from kidnapping negotiation directly applicable to the business world. So I'm working a kidnapping someplace anywhere in the world, and again, our skills have been test-driven everywhere. So it doesn't matter whether I'm in Bogota or Baghdad or Beirut. So the commanders I'm working for say, when is this going to be over? And I'll say, when the bad guys feel like they've gotten the best deal they can. Mm-hmm. Not when they got the best deal they could. When they felt like it.
Yes.
We're talking about kidnappers' feelings. As soon as they feel it was a good deal. That's exactly what you described. You get somebody looking to buy from you, they got to feel like they got a good deal. They got to feel like they worked for it. They got to feel like they fought for it.
Otherwise, they'll be unhappy.
Exactly. And so these are the strategies that we teach people, because what's going to happen? You got to follow in relationship with these guys. So they're going to come back. Do they feel like they got a good deal? They feel like they get cheated. Even if they don't come back, they're going to tell people in their industry, you're people in an industry. You know, do something good, 3 people know about it. Do something bad, 12 people know about it.
Yeah.
Every time somebody feels cheated by you, they're going out and they're telling everybody in the industry, these guys, you know, they ripped me off. It wasn't worth it. You know, the value just isn't there. You don't need that. You don't need that polluting your environment. So making sure people feel like they got a good deal is a critical issue. Brandon, am I good there? What do you think? Where am I off base?
I would agree with you on all counts. And as far as from an execution side, I mean, this is another reason why Noah brought up the labels and mirrors at the beginning, and why those are such powerful skills. Goes back to exactly what Chris just said in regards to pivoting to a dynamic. We get so caught up on terms and facts and data in negotiation that we overlook a dynamic. And so, what's your budget? How much are you going to pay for this? What did you guys decide is going to be what your spend is going to be, right? Those are all the questions that we have in our mind.
Find the facts before you before you throw anything at them, if you're going to throw something at them.
Exactly. People get caught up in trying to find the facts. And as Chris mentioned earlier, unfortunately, when you're asking all those questions, it feels like you're, in fact, interrogating the other side. So you switch to labels and mirrors because it makes the conversation feel more seamless. It makes it feel much more like a conversation rather than a negotiation where you are interrogating me for information I don't want to give you.
Yeah.
And so you shift to those labels, and you can say things like, even a mislabel, right? We talk about mislabels a lot.
I like mislabels.
Labeling them inaccurately on purpose. And so something that comes to mind, they put a lot of thought in what they want to spend on something like this. They've had lots of conversations. They probably got money squirreled away for what they're going to spend on it. And you use a label on them that says, it sounds like you haven't spent much time figuring out what you would spend on something like this.
Yeah.
Sounds like you haven't put much thought into what you'd want to spend on this machine. Knowing darn well they put plenty of thought into it. But that's one of the ways to start chipping away. And how do we get them to name price first? Sounds like you haven't thought much about what you'd spend. Sounds like you haven't set aside a budget. Sounds like you're worried about you're going to get the value for the price.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like there's a ceiling that you want to make sure you don't cross. Sounds like you got a range in mind. Sounds like you got other machines that you're looking at just like this one.
Yeah.
Right? Then you're focusing on dynamics as to why would they say something like this? Because they might be looking at another machine. Why would they say something like this? Well, because they got a ceiling that they don't want to cross, and they're afraid that they're going to go over that. Those are the dynamics that you then start to label, and you pepper them with it.
What if, say I was brokering a machine, I didn't own it, and I came in with a high anchor, but then I said, but they might be willing to listen to an offer, make an offer. It seems like, in a way, you frame yourself kind of, it's sort of, you put yourself in sort of a frame that's lower, but at the same time, you are giving them a chance to name a price. What does your instinct tell you about that?
Well, I probably got a couple clarifying questions for you, but the first thing I like is, giving them the opportunity to name price. And the real key to what you said is giving them the opportunity.
Because that way you get to give them a price, but you also then let them name a price. It's sort of a backdoor method in a way.
Well, that's the thing. This whole idea of giving them the opportunity, right? Giving them the opportunity to solve the problem from their point of view, or on their own, or without them feeling like they've got to consider your input in order to figure out how to solve the problem, right? That's when you start to protect people's autonomy. People are much more likely to make a deal if they feel like they're in control of what's happening, right? That's what shuts people down, is when they feel like they're starting to lose control. Yeah. I can't agree to that price. I feel like I've lost a little bit of control by agreeing to that price. Or I can't agree to that term because it affects my autonomy and my ability to control what's happening. When people feel like they have that, exactly like Chris mentioned earlier, they'll tell you what it takes to make a deal with them.
Nice. One of your I don't want to say tricks, or one technique you guys mention is, I think, Chris, you mentioned it at the very beginning of the book. Somebody asks you something and you say, and they're putting you in a difficult position, and you say, how am I supposed to do that? So it's very interesting. It's you, and then Brandon told me it again one time. You say, so somebody says something to you, they offer you a price for a machine, and it seems crazy, or maybe it doesn't seem crazy, and you just want to negotiate. And you say, how am I supposed to do that? That seems like a generous offer, but how am I supposed to do that? And then they go, what? This is often an email exchange, and maybe that's Maybe that's the problem. What is first, Chris? What does that do when you tell somebody, "How am I supposed to do that?" You've used that in hostage negotiations.
Yeah, it's deference. It is the most powerful way to say no. When you say no, it's our first way of saying no. You got 4 basic ways to say no. We believe in letting out no a little at a time. The idea is to say no in a way that encourages the other side. It also happens to burden the other side. Chance if somebody's giving you an offer that you can't do, or it's a bad offer, there's taking an offer right off the bat is a bad idea, all the way around, for a variety of emotional intelligence reasons.
You get seller remorse. You get
remorse is among the many reasons why it's a bad idea. But so you're trying to encourage the dynamic. Now, there's a lot in how it's said. It should be said with deference. It should be said with respect. It can be a very assertive thing to do, and we want to precede assertion with empathy. There's nothing wrong with assertion preceded by empathy, because you need your assertion to land, and empathy gets your assertion to land. Assertion without tactical empathy is the other side feels attacked. And so how am I supposed to do that is a way to put empathy, make the other side look at you. It's the issue isn't really whether or not they answer. The issue is the thought process you put them through when you ask the question. And that question stops people in their tracks and causes them to look at the totality of the situation and look at you in that situation. And it's a way to force empathy into the dynamic.
Does it work on email?
Again, what's come before it? Situation drives strategy.
Well,
is a phrase that Brandon uses all the time.
Well, for instance,
so chances. Let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm rattling at length here. I'm pontificating at length.
You're the reason I'm here. So I'll just shut the hell up. It's fine.
We wouldn't put "How am I supposed to do that" in an email by itself.
Okay.
We'd put some empathy in front of it. Am I off base there, Brand?
Yeah, we probably even, just because it is in text format, we might even, based on the situation, we might even contend that you need to put in an "I'm sorry" before you drop in that "How am I supposed to do that?"
You told me, Brandon, you said, "Thank you for the generous offer, but how am I supposed to do that?" So, Chris, you probably don't know about this, but Brandon, Brandon's
I don't know about
Brandon's done some training with us a couple times, and we did 2 or 3 of them, and then we did another one, and then you upped your price, and I was like, "What the hell?" Like, because we had even agreed on doing the meeting before I realized that he had upped the price. So I just figured I'd be clever, and I'd write an email to him, and I wrote, "Thank you for the generous offer, but how am I supposed to do that?" Do you remember?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that, Brandon?
You know what? It's been long enough now. I don't remember actually seeing the email off the top of my head.
So I can tell you what you wrote. It was pretty clever. What would you say, though, now? What would you say if somebody did that to you?
As a response to that, or as
you wrote an
coaching you on the
response.
email? Okay, all right. Well, and this is the other thing about constant evolution. Is the worst thing that we can do is stay static in our approach. And so I'm sure what I'd say now would probably be a little bit different than what I'd say then. Some of it also depends on the mood that I'm in at the time, which, I'm a human being, right? I do fall subject to my current emotions and how I react to situations sometimes. Thinking about it though, if that's what you threw out there, I'd probably come back with an accusations audit, and I'd probably be extremely apologetic. And I'd probably go on about, how much time you guys had put in. I'd probably talk about your commitment to learning the process. Mm-hmm. I'd talk about, your ability, or not even your ability, but the fact that you guys have improved yourselves and your situation since we've been working together. I'd probably throw all those things in there. And then I would end it with some sort of a call to action in the format of a no-oriented question or a label. And if I was going to go label, I'd probably go something along the lines of, it sounds like I have greatly offended you inadvertently. Something along those lines. Or if it was a no-oriented question.
See, I think you've advised us to do that in the past with customers.
Yeah.
And that's been just gold. It sounds like I've offended you.
Really? Good. Fantastic.
But I'll tell you what you wrote, which I thought was pretty clever.
Sure.
You didn't say any of those things. You said something about, it was very well worded. It was something about, $1. It's hard to, I guess it's hard to to quantify, what you'll get out of doing this or whatever, but over a monetary figure or whatever. But then you said, I'll be happy to refund the money if it doesn't give you what you're hoping for. And I was just like, damn, I couldn't really say no to that. I don't know. It worked. Evidently. I guess I felt offended. I was just like, maybe because they made the meeting before we knew about the price. It was totally worth it. The meeting was worth it. Anyway.
Well, thank you.
But I was very impressed with how you navigated that, because I was just like, oh, well, let's see what they say when I come back with how am I supposed to do that. All right. This brings us to... Yeah.
Yeah, what's our clock look like?
Clock looks like whatever it looks like for you. I'm flexible. Maybe we need to just wind it down. I want to... is it a problem if we go, 15 minutes more? Figure I'd give you a no question.
You know what? I would actually, if we could keep it to like 10, and the reason I say that is because at noon Eastern, which is about, just under 50 minutes, I got another class that I'm teaching. And there's some prep things that I want to make sure are in place before we get started.
Okay. So that brings me to no questions, which is like maybe the most important thing in the book. Because, why don't you... Chris, explain no questions real quick, please.
Yeah, well, it's just intentionally trying to get people to say no versus yes. It's ridiculously simple. It scares the hell out of people. It's counterintuitive. It's astonishing in its effectiveness. Unfortunately, many people have been getting to yes as a title of the most famous negotiation book preceding ours. Mm-hmm. Taught everybody that yes was success, which made everybody feel that no was failure. Just horrified at the word, as if, it was like Voldemort. You can't say it. Terrible things will happen. If you say no, Voldemort appears. It's horrible. The word that must not be named. And that's so wrong. So consequently, everybody's trying to get you to say yes. There's always a catch. And as soon as somebody starts to try to get you to say yes, your guard goes up. And people get into no mode where everything they say is no. And they condition themselves every time the word no comes out of their mouth that they feel they protected themselves. They feel safe.
Right.
It's a great place to be.
Yes, and makes people feel nervous.
Every time.
Exactly.
Every time. So we started experimenting. We came across by accident what happens when you intentionally trigger people to say no. And we started getting massive amounts of data that it prompts people to action, and your success rates are much higher. And we actually had a student in our class at Georgetown go out and run a sales script based on no's versus yeses. Instead of saying, do you want to have a better life? He'd say, have you given up on having a better life? And they ran the no script side by side one night against the yes script, and a no script performed 23% more effectively. So we started just actively going after getting people completely out of yes mode and into no mode. And it's astonishing the difference it makes. Like, if that's the only thing you do, you'll make more money.
Yeah.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But we get enough people that reach out to us and start telling us about how it changed their lives, just switching from yes to no. And we're like, we're awesome. You're 20% of where you could be. You know, you have no idea how much faster you could go. But it's a phenomenal change.
Yeah, well, it's incredible. I mean, one of the things in the book that I love is your thing about the email. If nobody's getting back to you, and you just feel helpless, you've been trying to get them to talk to you. You've been trying to just you just want to know if they're real or not. Doesn't matter. You just want to hear from them. It's the worst feeling. And then what I've found, I call it the nuclear bomb. If you're just totally stuck. Because you can't do this too quickly, but you write a 1-sentence email and you just say, have you given up on this project? And that, if there's nothing else I learned in that book, I mean, it's just amazing. You will get a response 9 out of 10 times. Sometimes it'll be something you want to hear. Sometimes it won't be what you want to hear, but I mean, it'll help.
And you don't have to wait either. You get the response almost immediately.
Pretty quickly. Just a few other things. Is Trump a good negotiator?
You want the Trump people to hate us? You want all your Trump fans out there to...
Most of our listeners are Trump fans, but I as an objective opinion, you don't have to. Look, if you don't want to comment, you don't have to.
Where are we with North Korea? You don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. That's exactly the point.
Okay.
You know what? That's the problem. Brandon and I are both natural-born assertives. Donald Trump is a natural-born assertive. So there's a lot about us that resonates with his style in many different ways. You know, you want to be combative, and the problem is, the more combative you are, you get some huge victories, and then suddenly people stop dealing with you because all you are is combative, and it wears them out, and then they just go away. They don't counteroffer; they just go away. And the North Korea thing, he did a spectacular job opening that up. He accomplished something that no other American president has accomplished in 50 years, and ever, since the beginning. It was a spectacular opening, and it's just all gone away. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody can figure it out. It just went away, and that's the unfortunate problem with assertive negotiators. If they don't learn to get out of that mode, then they have a few early spectacular successes, and then suddenly nobody wants to talk to them anymore, and everything just goes away.
Interesting.
So whether or not you think that's good or bad, how is it long term? We don't want people to stop talking to you. Yeah. We're coaching you. We don't want your customers to just stop coming in the door and have you guys sit in your offices wondering why nobody's talking to you.
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen to us. We don't want people we don't want a few spectacular successes and then have to change cities every couple months because we got to be put in a witness protection program because we've completely poisoned the environment of where we were before. And that's the problem with a negotiator whose only move is assertion. Every negotiator needs to be assertive. It's an essential component of negotiation, but it's not the only component. And when it's your only component, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm. One more question.
And Brand, what I leave out?
No, I think that was all
That's
pretty
very
accurate.
Very profound. Why do you say win-win? There's no win-win. I read that on the website, or what what's wrong with people saying there's a win? What's wrong with a win-win agreement?
Well, we're going to run out of time, so I'm going to
That's
ask Brandon
probably
to tackle
a
that
good
one.
hour lecture on that.
Yeah, that's when we could do an entire interview just simply on the win-win concept. There's so much there, but in short, two problems with win-win. One, the win-win idea is the focal point around it is that everyone has compromised to get to the place where they are. You gave up a bunch, we gave up a bunch, so we're kind of even in the fact that we both give up stuff that we didn't want to, so we both kind of won. Win-win and lose-lose in my mind are almost equals. But it's predicated on the idea that you have compromised your position so that both sides feel like they've won. Mm-hmm. So that's one real problem with that. This whole idea of compromise and the way we approach it is a real problem. And then the second part about win-win is there's been plenty of situations where people have made deals that they felt like were win-win, and then less than a quarter later, right, less than 90 days later, they don't feel that way anymore.
But don't you want both people to feel like they won at the end? Isn't that the goal? To make both people feel good after the deal?
Now, making people feel good is a good thing. Making people feel like there was a win-win solution is a little bit different. We don't see those as equals. Making people feel good about the deal that they've made and people feeling like everybody won are not exactly the same thing. Okay. But to your point, somebody feeling good about the deal they made is a good thing. That's essentially a place where you want to leave everybody in, is that they felt good about the deal that they made.
So maybe win is just a bad word to use.
Yeah, and really when it comes to compromise specifically, and our problem with win-win and this whole idea of compromise is there's a real fine line between compromising and high-value trades. And there's a difference between the two. And compromise, or the problem with compromise is compromise usually starts before you even get to the table. Well, if we give up this thing, we might be able to get them to agree to this. Or we can't ask them that because they're never going to say yes. We can't ask them that question because this is what their answer is going to be, so we can't ask them. That's where compromise actually starts and gets ingrained in your process before you even get to the table. And so that's one of the real issues with compromise. And then this win-win idea, again, going back to that, is win-win is not a lasting effect. You can make a deal today and feel like you won, or both sides won, and then wake up tomorrow and feel like you got screwed because the implementation isn't working out like you thought. Like, I thought we made a good deal. How come we're behind on this thing? How come they haven't got us this yet? How come they seem to have reneged on this certain aspect of our terms? I thought we had a win-win. And more often than not, we have found the residual effects of win-win is people are actually confused about where they really are.
So win is a bad word to use.
I guess in short, yeah. In short, win is probably a bad. And I can tell
Does it mean somebody
Senior
lost?
Voss. Yeah, right. Well, that's the other thing, right? Exactly to your point. Win is basically a thought that, somebody had to lose. In order for us to win, somebody had to lose. And Senior Voss, I can see you shaking your head there. You got some additional thoughts you want to add in.
No, it's really interesting because we've identified, Brandon's written a piece previously on the 5 most emotional words in negotiation. And win was not on that list, but it might as well be because there's so much emotion involved. And, all right, so let's talk about the truth. Let's see if you can handle the truth.
I don't know. I don't know if I can.
This win-win, we don't care that the other side win. We want to win. If you said, all right, you want a win-win deal, and I could say, so it sounds like it's important to you that I win, and you're gonna, you'll probably lie to me and say, well, yeah, of course I want you to win. I say, well, cool. How about if I win only? You good with that? The reality is, what side of this word are we on? We want to feel like we won. We don't really care that the other side lost. We hope they're okay. There's a humanitarian aspect in all of us, probably not all of us. Actually, there's a percentage there isn't any, but they're a minority. But do I lay up at night? Do I lay up at night worrying about you paying your bills? If I sleep like a baby when I win, and I give no thought whatsoever to what your situation is. I'm worried about paying my bills. So the truth of it is this farcical fiction out there that we actually are worried, losing sleep over whether or not you won. We lose sleep over whether or not we win, and there's this whole farcical dynamic to it. And it's win-win is a sign of either a cutthroat negotiator or a naive negotiator. But in any given case, I know that if you say win-win early on in the negotiation, you're trying to pick my pocket. You're trying to take every dime I have, or you're trying to pay me nothing. Come out and talk to these billionaires. It'll be a win-win opportunity for the Black Swan Group. And the next sound that somebody hears who says that to me on the phone is a click that I have hung up. So, it's a really fascinating dynamic, and it's a fiction, it's a mirage, it's a sucker move. It's just get out of those words entirely. Don't let those words cross your lips combined, and you'll be a better negotiator.
Well, guys, thank you so much. This is awesome, and I'm sure you guys I'll consult you again in the future. And it was just such a privilege to see you, Chris, again, or to see Brandon again, and to meet you, Chris. You guys are fantastic. So
you've been in good hands. You've been getting coached by the best negotiator that the Black Swan Group has.
Well, he seems pretty great. So
he's our most talented negotiator, no joke.
Well, thank you, guys, and I'll let you know when it comes out. It'll come out in a week or two, I think, and I'll send you guys the video. I think it's going to be really cool.
This is like a Joe Rogan interview. We should have done the Elon Musk thing and smoked a little weed while we were talking.
Yeah, right. The weed tobacco mix, right? There you go. That's a classic Joe Rogan.
I would have totally done it. I didn't know you were into that.
All right, man. It's a pleasure, man. I have certainly enjoyed this conversation. Thanks
you.
for including me.
That means a lot.
Thanks for having us on.
That means a lot.
This was a lot of fun.